Abused by her mother's boyfriend, 14-year-old Brittany Phillips ran away from Iowa City to Cedar Rapids. While at Hy-Vee getting food one day, a man approached her and asked her if she wanted a modeling job. She accepted. She was then kidnapped and taken to Chicago to a large trafficking ring, prostitution, where she was rescued by an undercover officer after a month. The essence of human trafficking is the denial of personal freedoms. It is a modern-day form of slavery where victims are denied the most basic forms of freedom, such as choosing where to live and work, being free from harm, and threats of harms to themselves or their families. It is a crime involving the exploitation of someone for the purpose of compelled labor or sex act through use of force, fraud, or coercion. When the U.S. government first started monitoring trafficking in 1994, go ahead and put it next slide. In 1994, it focused mainly on women and girls for sexual purposes. Today, it is routinely monitored on cases of trafficking in men, women, and children for all forms of forced labor and commercial sexual exploitation. Sex trafficking may occur within debt bondage, as individuals are forced to continue in prostitution through the use of unlawful debt, allegedly incurred through their transportation, recruitment, or even their crude sale, which exploiters insist that they must pay off before they can be free. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, after drug dealing, human trafficking is tied with arms dealing as the second largest criminal industry in the world, generating $32 billion each year. But reliable statistics are hard to find because it's a clandestine crime, and few victims or survivors come forward for fear of retaliation, shame, or lack of understanding of what is happening to them. Traffickers may force these victims to commit crimes, including theft, illicit drug production and transportation, prostitution, terrorism, and murder. Many human trafficking victims are children. According to the study of the U.S. Department Justice Human Trafficking Task Force cases, 83% of sex trafficking victims identified in the United States were U.S. citizens. The average age of these U.S. citizens when first used for commercial sex is ages 12 to 14. Now that we know what we're talking about and have an idea of the statistics, you might be thinking there's nothing you can do to help. That's not the case. There are many things that anyone can do to help victims of trafficking, but the traffickers are counting on us remaining skeptical and uninformed. One of the easiest ways to help is to download the Traffic Cam app to your cell phone. With this app, you can upload pictures of any hotel room you may stay at. Created in 2015 by the Exchange Initiative, their mission is to provide resources, information, and networking solutions to combat sex trafficking in the United States. Sex traffickers post photos of their victims in hotel rooms for advertisement. These photos can then be used as evidence to track victims by patterns in the carpeting, furniture, room accessories, and window view, matching to the photos submitted by the Traffic Cam users. Go ahead. Did you know your slavery footprint? Where were your clothes made and by whom? Maybe a man in Asia because his passport was confiscated. The electronics you used, including the cell phone and computer, could be made by children in Africa who were excessively long hours with no pay, being threatened with violence. Go ahead. Coffee drink this morning may have been harvested by victims of slavery, and the fish that you had for lunch, maybe that was caught by the men in Southeast Asia deprived of wages. Who can resist that chocolate dessert? Children in Africa are forced into labor working on plantations. The tires on your car may have come from families forced to work in hazardous conditions. Children working in brick kilns for long hours with minimum pay may have provided the bricks that built your house. Women subjected into forced labor in the United States, suffering emotional abuse, could have provided the food that you cooked for supper. Cotton towels by your shower and the cotton sheets on your bed could have been made by children forced out of school with no pay during the annual cotton harvest. These are just some examples of items that could have come from a victim of human trafficking. Take a survey at slaveryfootprint.org. You might be surprised what you learn. As methods used for the traffickers evolve, so does the understanding of this crime among law enforcement and activists. Public awareness is essential to continue our fight against human trafficking. It goes beyond the media reporting a story. We must know what help is offered for the survivors and what community is doing to prevent this problem. Get involved by hosting an awareness event, organize a fundraiser, work with your religious community to support victims, encourage businesses to provide jobs, doctors to provide care, and attorneys to offer legal services for victims. This can happen anywhere at any time and look different each time. It'll be unlikely to recognize a victim just by appearance. So if you see something, say something. Again, the traffickers are counting on us not reporting them, while the victims are counting on us to help save them. Would you rather be wrong and report it and right and nobody know? Linda was 2 years old when a couple of guys showed up and took her and her twin sister into a park bathroom in a small Iowa town and started recording sex acts between themselves and then included the sisters as well. For 14 years, she lived this nightmare, along with being used to get more children. She remembers the day her sister was killed when they were 7 years old. She was drowned in a horse trough for trying to escape by a 9-year-old boy. Now I ask, how do I know when to call? What are some indicators? I'm sorry, and more. Here are some things to look for. Is the person's appearance, do they appear disconnected, confused, fearful, timid, or submissive? Has there been a sudden or dramatic change in behavior? Are they sexually active? Are there bruises in varying stages of healing? Do they appear deprived of nutrition or medical care? Do they seem in control, or do they defer to someone else? Do they live in suitable conditions with proper personal possessions? The presence or absence of any of these indicators is not necessarily proof of human trafficking. Traffickers prey on victims with little or no social safety net, maybe due to economic hardship or natural disaster. If you suspect someone is in need, call 911 and report what you see. They may seem like they don't care at the time, but I assure you they do, as I'm a 911 operator myself. You can also call the National Human Trafficking Resource Center. Their phone number is 1-888-373-7888. You never know whose life you might be saving.